Why am I here? There are moments when mirrors speak back in symbols older than language. In this episode, Jai Gobind unbraids the cosmic code, weaving human design, gene keys, and astrology into a transmission that feels less like a chart reading and more like a soul remembering a contract. What emerges is not a prediction, but a path towards alignment. The dancer who carries the pressure of beginnings, the hermit whose silence becomes seed, the seeker whose longing dissolves into light. We speak of death not as ending, but as compost for what's next, of ascension not as escape, but as return, of expansion not as accumulation, but as surrender, of superabundance not as wealth, but as the spirit remembering it was never lacking. This is the serpent's path, the divine play of forgetting and remembering, a portal into the truth that your presence, not your doing, is the gift. So listen closely. You're not just being read, you're being called.
What I've discovered about these three systems, I studied astrology first and then gene keys and then human design, is that they are all interrelated. They all basically use as a basis astrology, Western tropical astrology charts, which is the type of astrology that I had studied, and they expand on the language, which is what I think is so cool. So for me, these three systems can be interwoven and you can flow from one to the other, and it'll give you like three different ways of seeing the same thing. And the languages, the three different languages, are actually very unique in and of themselves. Astrology is looking at archetypes and also looking at cycles of life that can help you align sort of a trajectory, like where do I fit into the big picture. And then human design gives you the kind of more strategic understanding of how you function best in the world and how you interact best with people, and what is going to be the one thing that you can do to stay in alignment. Because staying in alignment with human design is reaching that feeling of fulfillment and purpose and meaning in life. And in the gene keys, it takes it to a whole another mystical level. So I actually think we should start by looking at your gene keys chart. So we have, this activation sequence. There's three sequences in the gene keys, and you have to go in order. It's how it's recommended to flow, because each sequence flows from one to the next. Like the activation sequence starts here with the green spheres, and then it goes up to the red spheres, which is the Venus sequence, and then eventually it ends on the Pearl sequence. So it's the activation, and then the wound and trauma healing, and then the prosperity, then the ultimate like opening up of abundance becomes possible because you've done all the deeper self work. That's like kind of the background frequency of why the gene keys are set up the way that they are. So to dive into like what is your purpose, why you're here, the simplest way to do this is to look at the activation sequence, which is the one that you want to start with anyways. So the first sphere at the top here is the life's work sphere. And this tells you literally, what are you here to do? This is about doing. It's kind of a little bit more hands-on. And so essentially at face value, you're here to transmute the shadow of immaturity to the gift of expansion and eventually the city of super abundance. And sometimes we'll look at these words and we'll be like, what does it mean? When we haven't quite like purchased the book, which is the very important part of studying your gene keys. You want to get the Gene Keys Embracing Your Higher Purpose book by Richard Rudd. It's like the Gene Keys Bible. It's a transmission. And so when you read the gene key that is found in your spheres, for you it's the 53rd gene key, line 2. And that's how you would read it, right? So this one's the 54, line 2. So the lines do have specific meaning, but the main gene key would be the 53rd for you in the life's work. So when you read the transmission of the gene key from the book, it brings in this, it's like the frequency that was intended to come through enters your auric field, and then you feel that information like pulsing through your body. And it brings insight and breakthroughs and contemplation, and that's the key. So the most important part of learning this process is to actually put in the time to reflect on it yourself. But having said that, also someone who understands how it works can give you insight and direction into like, how can we kind of uncover or like unveil what some of these things mean. And so the descriptive phrase for this gene key, the 53rd gene key, they all have a description. It's called evolving beyond evolution. You have a line 2 here, and this line 2 is called the dancer, meaning you are somebody who's literally here to flow through life, and by being an example of just flowing through your own life intuitively, you become the example that shows others that they can do that as well. There's a connection here actually to your human design, because you can see that you have line 2, line 2, line 4, and line 4. And when we look at your human design profile, this information is found right here. Your profile is called a 2-4. So the line 2 in human design is called the hermit. The line 2 in human design, line 4 in human design is called the opportunist. Line 2 in the gene keys is the dancer, and line 4 is the server. So essentially, you're this like hermit. There's a hermit aspect of you that is here to do what it loves in its own space. Like there is an aspect of you that may really love being at home, just like doing the things that you love. Whoever has a line 2 in their profile tends to be someone who also has these natural gifts and talents, things that come so easy to you that you don't even think that you're good at it because it's so easy for you. But when other people look at you, they go, oh my God, you're really good at that. And eventually what happens is the line 2 is a kind of a self energy, self-focused, self-absorbed. Line 4 is community based. So at some point, someone comes in and tells that line 2, it's time for you to share this talent. You've been in your own space getting even better and better and better at this thing that you're good at. And what it is, it doesn't matter. It's just your unique expression. but you're so good at it, right? So somebody comes and goes, it's time for you to share this with the world. So they come and they pull you out of your cave and they go, it's time for you to like walk amongst the people. And so that's when that fourth line gets activated. And when that happens, then it becomes more than just your own individual experience. It becomes what you are now here to give to the world.
That's interesting. So just reflecting on that, it seems like that might be the point I'm in now. First of all, when I was a little boy, my dad had this painting. It was a Matisse painting above our dining room table.
Mm-hmm.
It was, it's the painting of dance. So there were 2 renditions of them, and I won't get into it.
Uh-huh.
But that later became a tattoo that I have on my arm here.
Oh my goodness.
Which is the painting of dance.
Wow.
And then, yeah, it's so funny. So that kind of speaks to the line too. The hermit stage happened. I was a big socialite in the university years. And then after certain experiences, I went into this incubation because I was questioning life. It was a very existential moment that also had a lot of self-destruction, longing, loneliness. It was a tough stage, but it's part of this hero's journey, which we can all understand at this point. And that brought me to also develop those things that I'm naturally inclined towards, I'll say, which could be writing, which could be language, which could be subjects like this. And just recently, in the beginning of this year, I met someone named Dustin Plantholt. And Dustin is big in the media space, if you will. And he was actually one of the big harbingers that was like, start a show. You should start a show. And in that moment, something clicked in me. And within a matter of weeks, I had the whole thing pretty much established. And we reconnected, and he was like, didn't expect it, but it was clearly built up, right? It's been incubating for a long time, and that was the final thread. So it's so interesting how you point that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, it's fascinating. So essentially, this sphere that we're looking at, that is your life's work, that is asking you to transmute this shadow of like immaturity to the gift of expansion. And the city means the divine gift. The city transcends the shadow and the gift altogether. So most of the time we are in this shadow and gift polarity, back and forth, trying to stay maybe a little bit more time in the gift energy, trying to transmute the energy. But the shadow doesn't stop living inside of us. We just learn to transmute it. We learn to find the light in the shadow, because the concept is that within every shadow you find the gift. So you transcend both of those when you get glimpses of the city. So the city in this case for you is superabundance. So it's all about evolving beyond evolution, which is funny to think about, right? With this line to the dancer. But essentially, this is saying that your life's work is to become aware of your environment. Because it talks about when someone holds this, when we think about immaturity is lack of self-awareness, lack of awareness of what's around you in your environment, right? It's like essentially that's what's going on with the shadow of immaturity. So your life's work is to become aware of your environment in order to know how to be aware of how you affect those around you. So self-awareness, and this is a quote from the book, is maturity, and only when humanity itself is self-aware as a unified organism will it have, quote unquote, grown up. There's also this aspect of bhakti found within this gene key. And bhakti is it's devotion. It's from the heart. It's again that concept of like the dancer that kind of is just in love with life, just because it exists, right? Just because he's alive. So another aspect of your life's work essentially is saying that you have to give way to this bhakti, which it describes as the ever expanding and transcending energy of life itself. Allowing yourself to be swept aside by life, letting go of all definitions of who you are and where you think you are going, This is about shifting towards heart consciousness, which in turn activates this thing about like just simplicity. Like everything just becomes much more simple, and that in itself actually is what activates prosperity and evolution. And with the ultimate city, this ultimate divine gift is you taking a leap into pure consciousness, which essentially ends the evolution itself. That's why they describe it as evolving beyond evolution. It's a path of finding self-awareness. So that is your life's work, which is so interesting because this whole show, this whole concept is like, who am I? Why am I here? You know, it's like I'm trying to become aware of this. So it's like I see it as a beautiful connection to your life's work according to the Gene Keys.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know of the aspect of the bhakti in the I Ching. And this isn't a defense mechanism about immaturity, but in the I Ching they talk about progress, right? And immaturity can also mean progress, as in trying to rush things before they mature. Does that make sense? And that's something I've actually been learning recently too. You know, the current one of the companies I'm working with right now, it's actually a family business. And I came in very gracefully, nonchalantly, not looking for anything. But since I was so gentle in my approach there, things unraveled in a really organic and natural way. Whereas if I was doing things like I used to as a software sales guy living in Austin, Texas, I would have forced things. I would have fought for things. I would have challenged things. And that's something I've actually just recently learned, where, you know, the grace, the coming in and just slowly putting my touch on things as they unravel has actually created so much more strength in our company, in our growth. And so that seems to also be a lesson of maturity that I've started to grapple with as well.
And this concept, you know, what I love also about the Gene Keys is that it like it's a specific theme that's found within your chart, but it's a collective theme. Like we're all moving from immaturity to maturity throughout life, right? It's like a natural progression, like you're saying. And for me, the way that I would describe this energy of immaturity is like he was saying, or Richard Rudd in the book, it's just going from lack of self-awareness to self-awareness. And then in that space, so much more is available. And so much more growth and expansion is actually available. And then eventually transcending it altogether. So there are really, there's in the Gene Keys what we call codon groups. But let me describe what this is. So basically, every Gene Key forms a part of a specific grouping. And they're called codon rings. And it's a little bit connected to like DNA.
DNA, yeah.
Yeah. How DNA works and DNA activates us. And this is very much like that. And so we can look at what codon ring, what group is this Gene Key a part of, and actually get some insight into what is the story that this Gene Key plays. And this one specifically is actually known as the codon ring of seeking, which is, again, these things, right? So you have two of these in this. Your life's work, which is the 53rd, and your evolution, which is the 54, which is the next one that we're going to look at. But this is what the codon ring is about. This codon ring is the great pressure codon inside human DNA. Each of the 6 gene keys within this group drives an aspect of human evolutionary movement. In the shadow frequency, this pressure creates stress and fear. In the higher frequencies, this pressure generates creativity and aspiration to rise up to greater spiritual awakening. Together, these 6 pressures drive you to seek answers that bring an end to the longing inside you. All seeking is therefore partially rooted in this satisfaction, and all seeking eventually leads you inwards. If this is It is this turning in that unlocks the huge reservoirs of vitality that are available to you when you relax enough. As you see that all seeking is simply life looking for itself, you begin to stop seeking. As the pressure within you falls away, the vital energy becomes clearer and more radiant within you. And this is very interesting, because if we jump on over to your human design, you're a manifesting generator. And the generator aura is these are the beings that have a defined sacral, which is the center right here. What is this center about? It's energy. Anybody that has this center defined has infinite amount of energy to do what they love. But the thing is that when you're not doing what you love, that energy is depleted. It doesn't get recharged, because it's 70% of the population that are the generators that are here to channel the life force energy of the planet. And the way that you know you're doing it is literally, it's so simple. You just do what you love, what brings you joy, and what brings you satisfaction, which is the signature of the manifesting generator. So when you're experiencing joy and satisfaction in life, which translates to doing the things that you love, you are essentially feeding and recharging this energy center. And then you're going to get more and more and more energy to continue to do those things. So a good gauge is if you're experiencing frustration with anything in life, that's literally your body, your whole design telling you this is the wrong way, or we've veered off course here, because we should be enjoying satisfaction. So it's not that we're supposed to be happy all the time. That's not true either. But it's just a realigning. It's like a voice or a gauge that, or like you turn the wheel and you're like, okay, we're back in alignment. So I'm going to experience less friction in life, not any less difficult experiences, but maybe less friction, where I feel like I'm actually moving forward towards that joy and satisfaction instead of fully the opposite direction. Because I know we've all experienced this, where like in life we can feel something does not feel right. We don't even want to do it, but we're forcing ourselves to do it. That's what this is referring to. So I just find it, interesting that this ring of seeking that this life's work and evolution sphere is a part of for you has to do with like relaxing into and letting go of like the need to find the answer, and then that's when you actually find the answer.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I think that definitely resonates. I had this seeker mentality for years, this very strong, I need to find out. And I was in books more than I was taking breaths of air. And that got me to a place where I had so much intellect that I was beginning to identify with my intellect. And so I would have these ego deaths every time I forgot something. And it came to a place where I started to say, okay, I need to be developing my virtue in concert with my intellect. And then when I forgot things, I realized that the virtue I was developing was by way of the things I had learned, right? I was just practicing what I preached. And so when someone would ask me a question on a subject, it would come from me instead of it being something I remembered. And that was a big change for me. And then recently, I'd been having these experiences that just really cracked me open to a place where I've surrendered in a lot of ways. And that's changed my life fundamentally. And so now, my cosmic joke to myself is to have a series called Why Am I Here as my purpose.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just keeps unfolding. Like we can just keep looking for deeper information. Like if I go back to, referring to human design for you. So this energy, this life's work energy for you, which is, we know it's the 53rd gene key. becomes the 53rd gate in human design. This gate is known as the gate of beginnings, and it's actually down here in this center, which is called the root center, which has to do with dealing with the pressure and stress of life. You have it defined in human design, which means that you have a consistent way of actually being able to deal with pressure and stress. Some people don't. And this is part of your life's work. The 53 is right here, and it is a gate in human design that connects to the sacral center via this channel, which is the 5342. Now, you don't have anything on this 42nd gate. That's why it's not circled in or activated. But you do have something on the 53rd. And what you actually have on the 53rd is your sun, right? So the sun sign in astrology is what determines your life's work. And in your astrology chart, you actually have the sun. We can actually go to it too. You have your sun in the sign of, here we go, in the sign of Cancer right here in your 12th house. So let's unpack that, because then it's like we can just keep adding on, information through the three systems. So sun in the sign of Cancer, it's a nurturing energy. The sign of Cancer is ruled by the moon. It's also a sacred divine feminine energy. It's flow. It's all about emotions. Cancer is part of the element, one of the signs that forms the element of water. So again, there's like that theme of the dancer coming through as well, the theme of like just flowing through life. Sun in Cancer means that you are naturally somebody who is sensitive and also loving and also nurturing. Like everything has a shadow, right? We're not always in the high and the gift, but the highest potential, which is what I like to kind of call people into, would be this energy of compassion, nurturing, self-love, sharing, co-creating with people, family, home. What is home to you? These things are like important things to you, like you kind of value them, right? And the sun represents the soul in astrology. And so the sun in the 12th house is going to be, okay, and in the sign of Cancer, it's like, what was the kind of bigger theme that your soul wanted to experience here? Through the lens of astrology, sun in the 12th house is a spiritual journey, because the 12th house is the house of spirituality. And wherever you have the sun in your chart will tell you, okay, this bigger theme, your soul chose to experience. So you can't get away from it when you have a sun in the 12th house of seeking to know yourself in a spiritual way. It's like it is one of the biggest themes in life for you. And so when we connect this information to where this lives in your gene keys, this becomes a part of the frequency of your life's work, of what you are here to do, which is to transmute that shadow of immaturity into expansion and superabundance, basically finding more awareness, finding self-awareness that leads to an ultimate spiritual experience or a spiritual awakening.
So damn fun for me though. So back to, it sounds like this big daunting thing, but
Right.
for me, I'm like, all right, like let's go.
Exactly. Yeah, so you came in like you were ready. This is what you wanted to do. And this lives in this, aspect of the chart. In fact, when we look at the energy of the human design here, we can see that this gate, because in the human design we call it the gates, that this gate being in the root center is also known as the gate of beginnings. And so essentially, when you have this gate, this is somebody who's under constant pressure to begin something new. And it can also mean that if things are not changing, you can get bored with life. It also means that it's okay for you to begin things and not finish them. You might actually have a lot of things that you've begun and not finished, And adding to that, you being a manifesting generator who is not someone who's technically meant to sit down and do one thing hardcore forever and ever and ever, that you're supposed to allow yourself to kind of like jump around, it matches this energy. And so it's more about...
I have a graveyard of startups and brands. And
a graveyard.
yeah, it'll ruin your bandwidth if you pull up a browser with my gallery of failed startups.
Well, this is about exploration and staying in alignment with your design that guides this frequency. Also following your emotional authority, because you have emotional authority through this process, is the key. So you're here to start something. You're here to begin something. And it's not even about getting to the what's on the other side of that, what's the end result of that. It's just like the process of starting something new and the excitement that comes through that. And essentially it's you finding self-awareness in the process. And there's another important thing about this specific gate, is that it is part of a circuit in human design called the sensing circuit, which means that in life, things will not make sense in the moment. When they're going to make sense is after the experience is over and complete, and you can look back and be like, oh my God, now I know why that happened. That's what the sensing circuit is all about. So all of that we just covered is literally just your life's work. So let's continue into the sphere of evolution. So the next one, so once you understand what's my life's work, what am I here to do? All right, this takes us to the evolution. How am I here to evolve, and what am I here to learn? So at face value, we've got the shadow of greed to the gift of aspiration and the city of ascension. So it is the evolution of the energies. They all have a shadow, they all have a gift, they all have a city. This one is actually really interesting because it talks about this aspect of basically having a desire, having a want, having an ambition. But when it's in this realm of the shadow, it expresses itself as this like greed. But when it becomes the gift, it's like the ambition becomes aspiring towards something of higher vibrational frequency, which essentially talks about spiritual experiences. Because if you think about the word ascension, right? The word ascension itself, we like use it so much in like when we're learning about spiritual paths and awakening, our sense of self. A lot of the spiritual teachers are like, oh yeah, well, we're ascending. Or we even talk about the earth as a whole is ascending, right? So there's this aspect of your self-awareness eventually opens you up to desires and aspirations to ascend, in a nutshell. But your evolution and where you find the most powerful breakthroughs are by transmuting this shadow of greed to the gift of ascension. And aspiration takes the desire in the direction of the spiritual. So this is about taking the deep drive to succeed into a higher vibrational frequency. And from this perspective, what you get, you also want to share. So it's like, yes, I want, but I want because I want to share. I want to give. I want to kind of provide in a way. Ambition becomes the urge for meaning and purpose. So to aspire for meaning and purpose is the key to your deepest growth in life. So this aspect of questioning, and it's almost like you've turned this desire, this aspiration to understand yourself. And it literally is how you are going to grow and where you're going to learn the most. And the lesson is essentially that to realize that material wealth is not really what you wanted after all. It had nothing to do with money or anything like that. It was what was hidden inside, the freedom that the wealth can give you, which is like true spiritual freedom. And the paradox that you never needed money to have that in the first place, right?
Right.
It's like you go through the polarity. You have to experience the whole spectrum in order to get to the ultimate lesson hidden. Like these are like gems, you know, and this is one of the biggest lessons for you in life. This is how you grow.
Yeah, that totally resonates. And another thing on this, the semantics of a word, right? There are so many connotations with abundance, but I don't know if it was listening to a Richard Rudd reflecting on the gene key, or if it was from the I Ching that I've studied quite a bit as well. But super abundance doesn't mean very abundant. It means
It's like the
above
opposite. It's like
abundance.
emptiness.
Being above abundance.
Right.
Super meaning above, right?
Right.
And so it's like it's not even really a thing, right? You've transcended the striving for abundance to a place where you realize you're already inherently abundant. So it's not even something you
Exactly.
seek, right?
Exactly.
It's interesting.
And you're pointing also to a fact that, like, when we're looking at the life's work and the evolution sphere in the gene keys, they are programming partners. Meaning, in the astrology wheel, they're exactly opposing each other. And so,
Can you explain that?
yeah. So let's actually find it. So if we know that your sun, remember your sun is in Cancer, and this is
Yeah.
your life's work. So exactly opposite the sun is the Earth, the personality Earth. Where you see that? Right here. This is the personality Sun, personality Earth, and it means that it's the position that the Earth was in the day that you were born. It's like a calculation. Like astrology is like geocentric, so it kind of puts us on the Earth. But if you were to literally look at where is the Earth the day you're born, it's like exactly opposite the sun in the astrology chart. So that creates a polarity, because every single sign in astrology has, like, one sign is on this side of the wheel and then the other one is on the other side of the wheel, and they're opposing each other, and these are polar opposite energies. For example, Aries opposes Libra, Cancer opposes Capricorn. So that means that this energy of what we're calling in the gene keys your evolution sphere is in Capricorn, which makes sense because if we're thinking about ambition, Capricorn is like that. Capricorn is the mountain goat who climbs up to the top of the mountain like he's gonna get there no matter what, because he understands that it's gonna take hard work and dedication, but I'm willing to put in the work to do it. And that's why the Capricorn energy are the people that are like very not all of them, but they tend to be goal oriented, focused on the ultimate achievement, wanting to climb up the social ladder, the economic ladder. It's like they want to succeed, and that ties into this like shadow of greed. But if you raise it up to aspiration, can you imagine all that determination and like holding power of the vision can awaken such a beautiful thing, instead of like just, I just want money, in our modern world. So when we get to what's the highest frequency here, which would be ascension, at the higher frequency, literally the descriptive phrase of this gene key is called the serpent path. So it's literally the kundalini that rises, the caduceus, right? The spiritual activation, the chakras. Yeah. It can become a literal spiritual awakening. So it's about, because it's also part of the ring of seeking, right? Where you're like seeking answers. So now we know there's two gene keys here that are part of this ring of seeking. That's an underlying theme for you. You want to know, so you are going to seek the answers. So,
but can I be candid with you?
Yeah.
From the seeker perspective, I always have that like love and reverence for the mystery, and there are things that I'm still connecting or tying dots to. But at the same time, I've had many mystical experiences young, right? So it's not necessarily that I'm trying to open up to it or I'm seeking the Kundalini awakening. I've had my encounters to a point where I'm definitely into, it's a part of my life, right? And I'm curious, it's almost the in between that seems to be what I grapple with, right? Like I had moments where I would open up and to a wholeness, right? And then I would come down to an experience of being Nitai again, right? And then I would perceive it through the world of duality as a human being. Wholeness becomes loneliness. And so I learned about myself. I had this personal lens, this personal shadow that I was working through, that I was inherently lonely. And so it became a teacher to me in many ways. But that grounding of the truth of both aspects of what really is has seemed to be my biggest path, because I don't question who I am or what this is or how it works, like one might think with the nature of the show. But it's almost, what does that mean for life? What do I do about it now? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's actually a really interesting thing about this specific gene key, and when it talks about the serpent path and this like kundalini activation and stuff, it says very specifically that this is not something that should be forced, but that it should come naturally. And for people who have this energy, it literally just happens or doesn't naturally. So what you just described is literally that like this is something that has been going on for you your whole life. Like going between, I would say that these are like different dimensional frequencies that we just flow through in life naturally. And the more conditioned that we are, meaning the more we've adopted other people's belief systems about who we are and what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to live life, it's like a natural thing that happens. We just get conditioned by life. The more conditioned we are, the less we can see these things, but the less conditioned we are, the more we're like naturally in this flow. And I would say that because you have a 2-4 profile, that you're more naturally in the flow than most, which is why you would have experienced these things like coming and going throughout life, not necessarily reaching towards a climax point, but just showing up and then like disintegrating and then showing up and then coming back to, it's like the mind expands and then it comes back to neutral and then comes back to self, comes back to matter, and then it expands again and gains this like powerful awareness, and then it comes back to reality, kind of a thing. It's like you're in, it seems like you may be in that flow naturally, not feeling forced at all.
Yeah, that was also something that I hid for a long time. And that was part of the dichotomy I experienced in life, because I didn't bring that into who I am. I hid it in the shadows. That was why I went through darkness in many ways. And then when I leaned into it and figured out a language to communicate it to people who were not even remotely privy to this kind of stuff, then I started to feel much better. I mean, hence what I do now, right?
Yeah, totally. And that takes us to the radiance sphere, which, did you want to ask a question?
So tell me briefly, as we're getting into the radiance sphere,
Yeah.
when it comes to astrology, we talked about the sun. I've also heard about the ascendant and how that is kind of the same as radiance, right? So the sun is, I guess, my personality, but the ascendant, is that the way I show up to others? Can you tell me a little bit about that when we get into this?
Yeah, totally. So the radiance sphere in the gene keys has to do with when you start to have breakthroughs in life, and they happen when you're transmuting shadows into gifts, your specific shadows into gifts. This true inner light starts to shine through. When we're looking at the rising sign or the ascendant in astrology, we're looking at a little bit of, an outer personality, what people see in you. And it is connected here, and I love that you made this connection. It's not like the radiance is found in the rising sign. It's not like that here specifically, but there is a connection to, yes, Once you start to do the work, okay, then it comes out, and this is what people actually see. So if you're in the shadow energy, what they're going to see is the shadow aspect of your outer personality. And then when you're in the gift, they're going to see the gift side of it, right? But this is also because it is a fourth line for you. It has to do with community. So it does have to do with coming out into the world and sharing of this light, this radiance into the world. So in astrology, the rising sign is when people look at you, they see this quality in yourself. Yours is Cancer, which is the same sign that your sun is in. So you have this and I can feel this, because I'm having an experience of you. I'm seeing you. When I look at you, I feel a deeper, and maybe it's because I'm intuitive, but I don't think so. I think most people could sense this in you. There's a sensitivity there. There's an emotional depth. That's what Cancer is. And a loving energy. I mean, you may not even try to show this aspect of yourself, because generally it's people think you're more what I've heard is actually people look at your rising sign and they think that that's more of who you are than where the sun is, where the soul is supposed to be, right? But you have them both in the same sign, so it's they're one and the same, so it's maybe easier to see this. So do you feel that about yourself? Do you feel like you're a sensitive person? Do you feel like it's challenging too for men, right? Because this whole aspect of sensitivity and emotions, it's no,
No.
But yeah.
I feel deeply.
Yeah.
I feel deeply. And
Yeah.
it's not even a little bit of a challenge for me to communicate my feelings or to immediately call it out when somebody else is somewhere. I call it out when somebody's in a place where they need somebody to address it. And I view it as a superpower.
Right.
I don't view it as a vulnerability by any means. It's awesome to be able to know where people are, right? In very weird ways, right? Even my pregnant sister, I will go be next to her and know what it feels like to be pregnant. You know what I mean? And I can't say that to her because I don't want her to be like, no, you don't. You never will.
Right.
But
Yeah,
you know what I mean to
I
a
do.
degree, where it's awesome. It's such a treat to be able to connect that way.
Yeah. This gene key is a really powerful one. So when we're talking about what is this light that shines through, what is this radiance that shines through, this one goes from the shadow of agitation to the gift of initiative, and then eventually the city of awakening. And it's called initiative to initiation. So let's look at the codon ring of this one. This one is my favorite codon ring of them all, probably because I have the 38. So the sacred wound at the heart of humanity and the reason for all of our suffering can be unlocked by the gene keys that make up this codon ring. As one of the most complex codon groups, each of the 6 gene keys in this codon group represents an archetypal aspect of the human story, together encapsulating all the mythic elements of what it means to be a human being. Wounded at the outset, the 25. You must do battle with your shadows, the 38. Overcome the limitations of your mind, the 17. Surrender your need to control life, the 21. And find your true self, the 10, before you can awaken, the 51. This is the one we're talking about. You can see from this very profound grouping how deeply bonded we humans are by the same basic dramas. Many of the gene keys in this codon group concern love and the human capacity to trust in the authority of the heart. The very blueprints of our human destiny and the future evolution of humankind lie coiled with this ring, along with the 6 essential human attributes truly natural and inherent in our species. So this is the story, right, that your radiant sphere is a part of. You are the part of the story that can have the ultimate awakening.
This one thing that was interesting was most would go to the Kundalini when you talk about the serpent, but my favorite image of the serpent happens to be the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail, which is the same as the complete nature of the I Ching, and I would imagine it's the same for the gene keys, where when you look at hexagram 63, which might be gene key 63, and 64, it's this whimsical thing where it says 63 is after completion, and then 64 the final gene key before completion. Which is hilarious. But the paradox lies in that the end is just another beginning.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so there's peace in that. There's peace in that. And I think it's interesting how you bring that up.
Well, essentially, what this radiant sphere is telling you is like that the only way that your radiance will shine through is when you stop trying to avoid death and endings and stop competing with others. Because it talks about agitation is about competition and like me, I need to do this right. There's like a very kind of egoic frequency to that. But that is power. And when used in the right way, well, who knows what the right way is, right? But when used in a way that it can help you awaken, right? That's like the ultimate. So this energy is literally a portal into the void. And the key is to jump in without knowing what's on the other side. So essentially...
You're saying...
Yeah.
Sorry. You're saying the agitation is the energy that puts me into the void.
Well, essentially it has the potential to push you into the void. But you got to have the courage to go in there. So it's like this constant nagging. Not happy here. Not happy here. Let's go find something new. That's what agitation is.
Yeah. You sounded like my inner dialogue for a second there. It's like, I know you.
Oh, that's hilarious. But you were designed, essentially, when in the gift frequency, to have the courage to take the leap. And so in so doing, you become the example for others to do the same. So
I think one of the...
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You know, I'm trying to continue to reflect this based on where I am now. You know, and I do feel like I'm dancing. That's the thing, you know, but not in a in and out. More so, I've danced in and out enough to be able to just want to dance. And it doesn't. I've definitely experienced agitation. My agitation came from my most core shadows.
Yeah.
Right, which really are, you're alone, right? I'm not saying that I am everything, but ultimately we're all everything, which is also alone. And that was my deepest wound that I unpacked. But once I was able to be grateful for it, and was able to be grateful for this life, because this is the opportunity where when people do get to that place and show back up, you're embracing yourself. You're giving yourself that same embrace for that same wound. With looking at yourself across a computer screen in this case, but in other cases in somebody's eyes, and like saying, "I'm here, I'm here." You know, and it's so healing and so beautiful. So for now, the dance has just been meeting people in many ways who are there, who are doing their own journey in whatever way it is. But there's also that wink, right? That like, I see what you're doing, and keep going. I love you, which is kind of where I'm at. It's not necessarily anything more complex than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you brought that up, because awakening in this specific gene key has more to do with actually being in like a creative flow. And when you're in a creative flow, right, the dance, as we're calling it here, you radiate that, you're in courage. That's courageous, right? To like flow. It's courageous in our world.
Yeah.
And so you radiate that out to the world, courage. So if we go back to your life's work, becoming self-aware is the first step. then the evolution. Following your aspirations is the next step. And this will lead you to take the initiative to jump into the void and awaken. So you can see how, when I was looking at this earlier, this is a very personal journey. You hold this frequency of like, I am here to go through these experiences. I have to discover this for myself. But the key is that as you do this, people are watching. And you become, the way that you serve others with that fourth line is you become the example. That somebody else can do it too. If I can do it, somebody else can do it. If I can leap into the void, if I can have courage, then you can have courage too. So that's the part that this, because this is like individual centering circuit in your human design. If we look at where it's at, this is actually important. It's right here, the 51, and it's in this center that is known as the ego center or the heart center, but it's the center of willpower. You actually have it defined, which means that you are someone who has the ability to commit to things, to like say, I'm going to do this, then put in the work to do it, and then also to make promises. Most people didn't come here to prove anything. If you want to prove something, you have the backing power to do it. That's essentially what having a defined ego says. Like, you have willpower. It's weird to believe that some people don't, according to human design, but I don't. Like, I don't have a defined will center. But it's a different.
You're walking proof of it.
No,
right?
I'm walking proof of being in my own design. My design is totally different. This one's mine. Look how different that is.
Let's see.
It's a completely different vibe and feel to it just by looking at it.
But you have willpower.
Well, essentially what this means for me is that I didn't come here to prove anything. So I don't need to.
Oh, so it's interesting. So I'm proving something.
You came here to prove something, yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
What are the so from a soul perspective, I'm proving something to other souls?
You're proving, to yourself, to others. You can find more information about this by looking at this channel right here. Because this is the channel that actually defines the ego center for you. So what is this?
Well,
yeah.
When I feel into that question, right, for myself, same way you've kind of guided me to do, I do just prove to myself, right? I'm not really interested in changing anybody's mind. I think everyone should, to a degree, use their own lives as a laboratory. Like, there's a lot of information out there. You gotta try it out, right? You can't just take everybody's word for it, especially these days. Especially in the age of AI, deepfake, all of it, right? Like, definitely go learn, play, but test it in the laboratory of life, for God's sake.
Yeah, right.
It resonates. It is for me to learn, but it's so interesting, how everything's a paradox, because there is so much love for everybody else behind the way that I approach things for myself at the same time. I don't know how to really describe it.
Yeah, and that's okay. You don't have to.
Yeah.
So what's interesting, if we unpack this specific channel, it's called the channel of initiation, and it's your Saturn. So Saturn in your natal chart is in Aries in the 9th house of spiritual integration. And it's your design sun, which is the positions of the planets 88 days before you were born. It's like the subconscious frequency. And that's on the 51st gate, which is actually called the gate of shock. And
that could be the agitation.
Yes. And just a little side note about Saturn, he teaches us the most difficult lessons about maturing through the lens of astrology. So him being on this gate of shock It means that your Saturn return, which happens like 29, 30 years old, was probably some kind of a shocking experience for you that like shocked you
Will be.
into awakening.
I'm 27, so I got some time.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't worry, everybody.
So, yeah. I was gonna ask you. I should ask him how old he is, but yeah. So that is this is the theme, right? You study the 51. It lives right here for you in the Saturn frequency. So this is, yes, it's gonna be some kind of awakening for you. I'm actually excited. This is exciting.
Yeah, that just sounds like fun. That
right.
sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And then on the other side, on the 25th gate, which is the other side of the channel, is the design south node, and then you have one more planet, design Venus, on the 51st gate.
Sorry to interrupt again, but thinking about Saturn and the Saturn return,
Yeah.
I feel like this is related to the Ring of Humanity, right? I think
Yes.
this is going to be definitely interrelated.
Yes. So I love, there's
It's so cool.
I know. I love, okay, so there's a book. I'll just show this. I don't know if you're interested, but I love to use this book to learn about circuitry and human design. It's called Human Design Circuitry, The Complete Guide to Circuits, Channels, and Gates. And written by Richard Rudd, who is...
Oh, epic.
So
The king
I'm like,
himself.
there's no other... I'm like, I will only use this book. I don't know why. I just love Richard Rudd. So anyways, this is what he says about this channel. The channel of initiation, a design of needing to be first. Part of that centering, individual centering circuit, which makes you an individual. No, you're not here to be influenced by anybody else. You're on that your own journey. Your life is a series of leaps into the unknown. You were born with the spirit of a warrior, and you are here to learn to walk your path on your own. Take courage, leap when the need calls, and worry about the consequences afterwards. This is also called a channel of mystical direction. In the mundane world, these people are deeply competitive. By going into new arenas, stretching themselves beyond their normal limits, shocking themselves and others, they are here to feel the wonder of their own unique spirit. These people also like to test the limits of their endurance and can end up transcending their own sense of power into a totally fresh, even mystical experience of themselves. These are people who can initiate others into doing things they wouldn't normally do. They love to be first, to enter a new arena, and they carry a powerful design also in the business world, where they empower organizations through their individual flair and gutsy approach to getting what they want. You could tell the language of human design is very different, but it's fun. And it kind of points towards what I love about this for you is when we're looking at this in your human design chart, this is where that power of like, I am here to do something and I want to see what happens when I freaking go. That's what it's talking about. You have this sense of like, let's go, you know, let's go see what happens.
So funny. I was sitting in my room last night, and the best way I'll describe this is imagine you're using your imagination to say, what does your soul want to say to you right now? And I was like, what is it my soul says to me every morning? And what came to me was, let's go be great. This was last night.
That's amazing.
This was last night. Literally said, let's go. You know, let's go be great.
Somebody asked me, I don't know if I have this, I can't remember, I don't think I have the 38th, which is part of the Ring of Humanity, but I had a reading not too long ago, and somebody was like reading into my chart, and I also have my son in the 12th house of spirituality, and they were like, I just want to see if you can intuitively tune into this without me saying anything. Like, what do you think you're here for? Like, what do you think you're here for? And I had the same answer. I was like, to be great. And he was like, yep. And it wasn't talking about this jinky because it was an astrology reading, but I somehow have that energy as well in my astrology chart that this astrologer saw, that was actually so cool because it teaches us the one thing that I love about human design and on all of this is that there's no bad gene key or gate. Like,
No.
if you it's like whatever meaning you attach to it is how you will perceive it. But every aspect, even to the whole like greediness aspect, plays a role in the whole. And so, yeah.
I that completely resonates. You know, I have this like Odyssey thing here, and one of my favorite stories is the Odyssey, and to me, it's like, okay, we all already are great. We already are great, but we go through these limited conditions to transcend these limited conditions, ultimately to experience what we know we are to begin with.
Exactly.
Right? But the lenses we have are like, we wanted to watch it directed by Christopher Nolan. We wanted to watch it directed by, you know,
Yes.
like it's, our lenses are doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But we're just going to a different version,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and I think everybody is great. Everybody feels great. Everybody knows deep down that they're great. And that's what leads to judging ourselves.
Right.
Because we see things in an imbalanced way and think that's why, you know, that's why they're not the infinity that deep down they know they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so by shifting our perspectives of those things, as you're saying, things become so much easier. So It's so cool how you're able to show that to people, like with a chart.
Right? I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and this,
Yeah.
so now we've gotten to the point where we get to the purpose. So what I love about it is that it's not like the purpose you don't even get to the purpose until you get through all these other understandings of yourself. And so the purpose, again, in the Gene Keys is about being, not doing. So what is your purpose? It's the transmutation of the shadow of unease to the gift of intuition and eventually the city of clarity. So like, as you find self-awareness, learn what your aspirations are, right? Heighten the frequency of your aspirations. You have the capacity to like expand, ascend, and initiate a powerful awakening in your life that ultimately leads to the like ultimate clarity. And that's literally your purpose, which is crazy to think about.
That's as damn cool as it gets, in my mind.
I love it. The description for this one is called a gentle wind.
That hits.
And if you look at here, where is this one? Oh, it's right here. 57. This is the spleen center. So the spleen is literally about, it's instinctual. It knows, it has clarity in the moment, and there's these like little voices that come through. They're kind of soft, but if you pay attention to those voices, they're like keeping you safe. They're like guiding you like every step of the way. If you have any channels that connect from the spleen to like pretty much anything else, it will define the spleen, which means you have this internal voice going on. The specific channel that you have active here is literally called the channel of power. So you have Pluto, right? Pluto is the planet of ultimate liberation. That's literally what Pluto's about. Yes, it has to do with death, change, transformation. You have to go through these like symbolic deaths in order to be reborn. But ultimately it's about liberation, and ultimately it's about stepping into your power. So like literally when you step into your purpose, you literally step into your power. And what is this power, right? What is the channel of power? Let's actually look at it. But it's the 57th gate, which is basically where your purpose is. And then it's this 34th gate, which is the gate of power. And that's where you have the design Earth and the design Pluto. So from the book again, the channel of power, a design of an archetype. This is an integration channel, so it's a little bit different. The integration channel are individuals with defined, with these types of channels defined, are seen as being here to embody empowerment and self-preservation, focusing on their own needs and survival. So there's something about, that's why I kept thinking, like, this is a very self journey that you're on. You know, you are in it, and it doesn't really involve anybody else. And you have to trust that, and you have to just go your own path. But this channel of power, your body has a very acute early warning system that is constantly attuned to your immediate environment. When you can learn to consistently trust in your intuition, you will become the archetype of true power. These are people whose intuitive awareness keeps them healthy through constant response. These people have to allow their body to respond in the now. Only when they learn to trust in their moment-to-moment response will they be free from their fear of the unknown. This channel represents a consistently operating intuition. And in this respect, it is very different, for example, from the sporadic flashes of intuition of a different channel, which is known as the 5720. These people are constantly on guard and alert. They always have to trust the animal within them. They are always ready to jump either into battle or out of the way of danger in a split second. Their animal energy is purely based on their attunement to sound and vibration. For example, they will always hear exactly what is really being said through the tone of the speaker rather than through the words themselves. The power of this channel is only seen through spontaneous response before either the emotions or the mind comes into play. It is the pure essence of survival. Sometimes these people can appear very cool to outsiders, but when responding naturally to life, they truly represent the archetype of what it means to be a true human being. Those are in the words of Richard Rod. I mean, it's pretty powerful.
He has this way of, no matter what he says, you're just like in a little bit of a poetic bubble.
It. Yeah. So
it's not animalistic. I can kind of speak to this a little bit. Resonance definitely in voice. People can say anything to me, I'll see right through it, if depending on how they sound. But my intuition is felt physically.
Yeah.
From above my crown down through my spine. And the first time I had ever done a Tree of Life meditation, it was actually a quick Gaia series by Robert Gilbert many years ago. The late Robert Gilbert, who actually got me, he's the reason I started with the Clairvision school. He went to this school as well, and because I had this experience with one of his meditations, I was like, this is probably the path for me, which has been wonderful. But I had done this meditation sitting on my couch, like just randomly. I was like, all right, I'll just try this. It was a video that just popped up on my TV, and this was a few years ago. And doing the meditation, nonchalantly, I became the Tree of Life. But I wasn't just I wasn't the fully activated tree. I was the upper triangle, and then the central column. And obviously, it was just like this. I became that, and I was physically that. And then I came back into my body, and then I stood up and I walked around, and I was like, I'm a light. Right, that was a weird thing for me at the time. Now it's something that someone can resonate with, but at the time I was like, I'm a light. Like my body is a light. And that was strange. And obviously I had learned the deeper meanings since then, but at the time it was very naive. But what I did experience right after that was the full activation of my intuition. Maybe not full, maybe there's more to come. But I remember hearing almost like an audience saying, we're here, you finally did it, we're here, when I'm back in my body. And it just felt like such an embrace. And there were two people who were very close to me in this life that I almost saw their faces as I heard that sound. And then I walked to my mirror, and I smiled, and right when I smiled, I started to feel this very physical vibration, which is the onset of my intuition. So now whenever I do things, I just pay attention to if I'm feeling that or not. And if I'm not feeling that, then I'm like, this is not for me. And I use that more than I use my rational mind in many ways.
Yeah, totally. And so,
but I know that's a long tangent, but the reason I think it's important to say that is it doesn't feel like an animalistic, sensory, primal thing. It really feels just more like I'm in tune,
But that, I mean, I feel like that's what it means. There's nothing. So again, it's like this brings us back to the concept of like nothing's good or bad per se when you perceive it in the words that are used. But the spleen was one of the very kind of first centers of evolution according to the human design, and so that's why instinct lives there. But actually, it's really cool because people that have this splenic energy can have more awareness in the now than people that don't. So it's like a really good thing because there's an aspect of you that's constantly guiding you. It is intuition. Yes, anybody can strengthen their intuition, but having a defined spleen and having this specific channel defined does give you a little bit of a extra power there that comes like directly from like your inner reserves or something, Yeah. So essentially, right, when we're talking about your purpose, right, because now we've gotten to the actual purpose for you. Every time that you trust your intuition or make a decision based on it, you raise the frequency of your entire aura. And it is this strong sixth sense that you have, and it is your most powerful inner compass. And so this has to do with you trusting also nature's way of communicating with you. And because you are a manifesting generator, this also has to do with trusting your body's responses, like you're talking about, and the responses to the environment as well, that they'll tell you exactly, yes, this is a good place, no, we should leave. And then also doing only what you love, using your intuition to take you to the things that you love, so that you will continue to have all of that energy to keep doing all the things that bring you joy and satisfaction. It's also about softening into life and quieting yourself so that you can hear that sacred voice from within. So in that moment of like meditation where you dropped in, it got louder. That voice got louder. It's kind of what happens. It's like, and usually it's the mind space that talks so loud that we can't hear that voice within. And that's why it's like a gentle wind. Because it's like, shh, can you hear it?
Yeah.
So I think it's it's about softening into life and quieting yourself so that you can hear that
and
voice.
Stillness.
Yeah. That's your purpose.
Yeah, it's interesting. My life has been in service in many ways, and I think my family and friends would probably agree, where I've felt the most aligned when I've been leaning into these parts of me, right? But I also feel very myself when I'm able to use insights that I've gathered from the BS I've done, right? The stupid ass things I've done, quite honestly, to the hell I've gone through, to the profound things that have come to me as well, and give those to other people, So in many ways I do love this exploration. It's so fun to me. But in many other ways, it's them that make it worth it.
Everything is about relationship. Like, yes, we came here into the world as an individual, but one of actually the deepest teachings in the Gene Keys is that the way that you actually transmute a lot of the shadows is in relationship. Because when you're in relationship, you get quote unquote triggered or not. But either way, it is through that connection with others that we also find more meaning and that we also grow and evolve ourselves. So yes, it's us being in our own individual journey, but also having the awareness that opens up to like, hey, others are on their journey too. But that's what takes us into that place of compassion. That's what takes us out of the shadow of like blame and like it's your fault or whatever the thought is. And it takes us into like, if I have my own shadows that I'm working through, then everybody else does too. And essentially the message would be that as we all work on transmuting our shadows into gifts, we begin to see each other more clearly for who we are, and like love each other for just, you know, we're all in this together kind of a thing.
I just read this book recently. It had stuck with me for years, and so I decided to reread it. And the line that stuck out to me always was, first of all, the book, 7 Sermons from the Dead. It's a Carl Jung book, but he wrote it under an alias. I think he called himself Basilides. But it's essentially about creation. And they talk about, you know, the void with different words, duality with different words, what the human being is. It's definitely worth reading. But there's a line that's exactly what you just said. And it's, in singleness we achieve height. In communion we achieve depth. Singleness is the light. Communion is the warmth.
I love it.
Of the flame, yeah. And that makes sense, you know. It is that. It is that. The illumination is in that self journey, at least for me. But the fire, the warmth, the heat comes from passing it around.
Yeah. And as a 2-4, you really are here to give that gift to others, to connect with others, to show others, really more than anything by being the example of like stepping into your own journey with courage, despite what anyone thinks or says about what you choose to do, you know, with your life, with your ideas, with your projects. But essentially it is meant to be shared, specifically as a 2-4, because that 4 line is community. So it would make sense that you have such a deep desire to connect with others in this way.
Thank you. So, reflecting on purpose, what would be your one sentence that kind of sums it up from that?
I would say that let your intuition guide you into taking leaps of faith in your life so that you can discover everything that you desire to discover, and let it lead you into like ultimate awakening, and in so doing naturally inspiring others to do the same. So I would say that the most powerful thing you can do is just like trust and take a leap into the void and see what you discover, and that will ultimately like light you up and make you feel like life has meaning and life has purpose, and give you that joy and like satisfaction and bliss that we're all essentially looking for. But for you, it's you on your path. You got to discover it yourself. You got to go for it yourself, and then you'll naturally share it. But it really is about you going out there and finding it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Seriously, thank you. The way you brought that together was so poetic, and I also like how you've brought all these different resources to the table. You know, even the book. And it just shows to me that you've done this for yourself too. You've been searching hard. And the amount of fluency you have with the different systems, the amount of clarity you have with the different resources that are out there, those are the ones you've picked. I'm sure there are many that didn't meet your criteria. And so you've been there too, and I want to acknowledge how cool it is to be at the place where we're dancing together to a degree. Because there was that moment where we weren't sure where we were going with this. I still am not sure, but at least it's in a place now where I feel comfort in the void, as you call it.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like if we are those single and commune people, those flames, we should be wearing the darkness like a cloak. You know, we should love that, because that's what makes us who we are. So thank you. So cool, so glad to meet you. And you know, I think the way you've done that, people should do that for themselves, right? It's a consilience across sciences, across systems. All of it is. And one of the things that brought me the most joy in life is beginning to look at everything as a pattern, teaching me whatever I came here to learn. That, to me, is so exhilarating. And it's the beginning of alignment. The ability to see everything as like a divine sign for you. It's beautiful in many ways. So you are that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And you're welcome. Honestly, you're right. It's like I'm a 2-4 also in my chart. So this is just something that feels so natural and easy for me to flow through these different systems and to dive into like different aspects of them that just take me on these like rabbit holes. And I think that's probably why I was like, I want to go like deeper into this. You know, we're calling it the void. Like I want to, where does this take me in? And it's like you jumped in there and it's like, oh, you show up in the world of astrology and then you jump right back into human design. And it's like, for some reason, that's what my flow is. It's like, because I'm a mental projector in human design. So my teacher, when I studied human design, he said the mental projectors are like the satellites that are like tuning into like all the energy and like channeling it, because essentially they don't have anything to find below the throat, right? So usually they'll have just like the ajna or the throat, which
I think that's just because we're in Zoom in a virtual meeting right now. It's a bad joke.
You gotta be careful making me laugh. I'll laugh for 10 hours.